I'm lucky that I have a purpose and it gets me my juice every single day. How can people find purpose and meaning in their lives, especially if they're sick?
Start looking for it, because if you don't look for it, you won't find it. And people aren't told to look for the light. They're not told that there's hope out there, there's love out there, that there's somebody there who really cares about them, unless they're looking for them.
Just looking at your everything that happens to you in life, and instead of having a negative view, you use it as a teaching moment. Hello, Dr. McGarey. I am so excited to be speaking with you today. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time, and I truly appreciate you joining me on this
Well, thank you.
session. Yes. I been following your work for a while and was super excited to get your book and to hear some of your advice. And I'd love to just kind of start, with your story. First of all, Dr. McGarey, how old are you now?
I'm 103.
Incredible. I mean, you have so much incredible advice for us, and I'm just so honored to be speaking with you. So once again, thank you.
Yes, well, I'm in awe too.
Um, Dr. McGarry, I would love to hear a little bit about your story. My background is I'm Indian as well, and I know you spent some of your time in India and had some experiences there that would love to hear a little bit about that and how that kind of shaped your journey through life.
Well, really, your childhood does shape your life. And I was very blessed because my parents were both osteopathic physicians who went to India as missionaries. And we were in the North India jungles where I grew up in tents, where my parents took their work back into the villages, to the poorest of the poor. And I grew up with the kids in the villages, and the village kids would try to rub the white off of my arm.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was so different colored from
Yes.
them that they would, they'd come and they just rub and rub, and it didn't come off.
Wow.
So it was a wonderful way to grow up. And so I knew when I was a little person that I was a doctor. So my dolls, they got sick. And my sister wouldn't let me play with her dolls because they weren't supposed to get sick, but mine did. And so I knew I was a doctor when I was little. And my parents know that too.
That's incredible. Back then, this was like, what was it, like 90 years ago, right? India was very much, especially in the villages of India, without electricity, without sanitation, without a lot of the modern day comforts that we have. And this is where you were living, huh?
Can you believe that we're talking like we're talking when, as a kid, I didn't even know what a telephone was.
Incredible.
When I was born, my dad had to send a just a message. Why? What is it?
Telegraph?
No, it was not a telegraph. Even we went underwater to get Cincinnati. The what's that called? I'll think of it. Anyway,
Cablegram.
Cablegram. That's right.
And every letter counted. So in sending it, so the message was, "Girl, well, Taylor."
Wow, that is incredible.
And now look at what we're doing. Isn't it awesome?
It's the pace of discovery and innovation and technology, especially over the last 20 years, is just mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up with the rotary dial phones, and now we're talking on Zoom in video in real time. And you're in Arizona, right? I believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Scottsdale. Uh-huh.
Yes. I'm talking to you from Aspen, Colorado right now.
It's amazing.
It
You know,
is.
when you consider the fact that we now have the opportunity to know people all around the world and speak to them and see them face to face, it's just, huh, really
Yeah.
awesome.
It is really awesome. And I'm glad I can benefit from that to talk to you today because I want to hear about your story about meeting Mahatma Gandhi.
Well, that was an important moment in time because my parents were every 6.5 years they had the opportunity to come back to the States for to meet, go have time with their families and so on. So we were in the train going to Bombay so that we could get on the boat to get to the United States. And I was really unhappy. I was 10 years old. I didn't want to leave India. I didn't understand what America was. I just had no, it was a big, scary place for me. And I didn't want to go there. I wanted to stay in India. And so we're in the train and uh, come to a station, a train station. So the train slows down, and I have my face plastered against the window, looking out at the big crowd of people. But in India, that's nothing. There's always crowds of people. But in front of this crowd of people, there was a small man in a white dhoti and a staff walking along and nodding to people, and people were calling something to him. And just as he got to uh, where I was in the window, and he was coming up, walking up with the crowd of people, he leaned down and picked, got a flower from a little girl who was holding it up to him. And as he looked up, he looked straight into my eyes. And I, as a 10-year-old kid, I didn't know what was going on, but I knew that I connected with him. And it was a very important, sort of a magical point in time. And 30 years later, my parents, my mom and dad, worked with him, with Gandhi. It was Gandhiji, of course, worked with him during the partition when the Hindus and the Mohammedans were just really having a terrible time uh, finding how their country was going to be. And so Gandhi and my parents had a very strong connection. And Gandhi gave my mother a shawl that I have upstairs, and my dad a funny but blanket. In other words, it was a close enough relationship that they felt that they, wanted to do something with each other. It was that kind of a lovely relationship. But it started when I looked into Gandhi's eyes on that train platform.
That is such an incredible story. And to hear that you were there and a part of this entire transformation through your parents of India and your witness of such significant events in history is just
Right.
mind-blowing to me. And I'm sure all of that shaped a lot of your thinking about medicine and around helping people and why. I mean, I know you said you wanted to be a physician since you were a young girl, but it seems like this might have even propelled that journey even further.
Yes. Well, it was important. And and I knew it was important as a kid. But and those kind of um, concepts that you uh, really work with when you're thinking about them as a kid. I think as parents, it's important for us to pay attention to these things that our children say. It's like my son, who's here with me, helping me with things as a retired Presbyterian minister. But when he was 7 years old, he came into the living room and he said to me, I wish Jesus was here. And I said, well, I do too, but why you? He says, because I've got questions.
Mhm.
And I said, well, try me. Maybe I can help you. He says, but you don't have the answers. And I said, well, just try me. So he says, okay. Now, this is a 7-year-old. How can God be if he never got started? And I said, oh, well, maybe it's like a circle. It doesn't have a beginning or an end. He says, I knew you didn't have the answer.
What an insightful question at such a young age. And I did like your answer, though.
And then my other son, who's here with me today, um, he came in when he was 4, and he says, I know something. And I said, well, what's that, Bobby? He says, if I make a friend and he makes a friend and he makes a friend, it's going to go all around the world and come back to me. So, of course, he has a human potential center in Austin, Texas. You know, it's
Wow.
that kind of, when you pay attention to these little people who have their own ideas and their own special reasons for being in this earth at this time, it's just awesome. Life is awesome.
That's so inspiring to hear that you've came to this conclusion throughout your life and you're still say that today.
Yep, absolutely. Each one of us has our own special place.
Right.
Our own special place.
I love it. Can I ask you a little bit more about your journey as a practitioner? Where did you learn holistic medicine? And I mean, I love it that you started the American Holistic Medical Association, but there wasn't no such thing as holistic medicine back in the day. So, we only had traditional kind of medical medicines and surgeries and things like that available to us. Where did you come up with the concept of holistic medicine?
Well, you know, I went to medical school during World War II.
Well,
So everything that we were taught was about killing, sure, in the war effort, but killing diseases and eradicating pain. So that's what medicine was all about for us as physicians, to learn about how to get rid of these aspects of our lives. And somehow that didn't fit in with how my parents were taking care of people when I was a kid. So when I was in medical school and we were learning all about getting rid of stuff, I kept asking questions, and the dean sent me to the psychiatrist 3 different times because uh, she didn't think I was fit for medicine. Well, the psychiatrist just sent me back and said, keep on going. And so that's what I did. And we thought, when you know that you're doing what you need to do, you find other people who find the same thing. And so as Bill McGarey and I were talking about what we were doing as we were practicing medicine, we weren't, of course, we were dealing with the pain and the diseases, but that wasn't our primary focus. It was getting to know the person and getting to deal with that person for what they were dealing with in their lives. And we became very aware of the fact that medicine had a huge other dimension that the world was not looking at in the in the practice of medicine. So we, with other people who were starting to think the same thing, decided that we needed to. Actually, there were 5 of us who got together and said, we need to start something like a holistic group or something, but it took us 2 years to figure out how to spell holistic because the word we were looking at, what root word was health, healing, and holy. We need to get that aspect of our inner being into the practice of medicine so that it would really be working with true healing, which I believe is love and life.
That's a wonderful, wonderful answer. And we're so happy you took medicine back in that direction. Sometimes, we think about how much we've advanced in medicine and we have incredible therapeutics and we have incredible diagnostics, but it seems that we continually forget about exactly what you're talking about, treating the human being as a whole person. And it's, I trained in medicine 30 years ago, and I was lucky enough to go to a medical school at University of Missouri, Kansas City, where we actually had a course in holistic medicine that was a month-long course, but that's all we got. And then it was right back into learning about pharmaceutical agents and surgical techniques. And I'm constantly finding I need to remind myself that every patient is a whole being with so many interconnected parts. And like you said, treating them with the love and compassion is so incredibly important for all practitioners.
Right. And my oldest son is a retired orthopedic surgeon. But when he's ready to start his practice in Del Rio, Texas, he came through Phoenix and he said, "Mom, I'm real scared." He said, "I'm going to go into the world. I'm going to have people's lives in my hands. I don't know if I can handle that." And I said, "Well, Carl, if you think you're the one that does the healing, you have a right to be scared. But if you actually do the practice of orthopedic surgeons that you've learned, which is awesome, if you have the ability to help people as an orthopedic surgeon, and you do it with love and the whole healing attitude, but you reach to the physician within that patient, because that's the person who's going to do the healing. Within each one of us is that actual healing essence, which is I like to think of it as a physician within us. That physician within us knows why we're sick and what we can do about it. And if we as physicians reach to that aspect of our patient with love and compassion, we're going to be doing amazing things.
Very true. Very well said. Um, Dr. McGarey, you wrote this incredible book called The Well-Lived Life, where you talk about secrets to health and happiness. And to be honest with you, I've never really seen anyone present it in the way that you have. And I'd love to ask you a few questions about some of these secrets. One of them you talk about is how we use our energy, how we spend our energy, and how to feel motivated and full every day. I love that particular topic because I feel like almost all of us now living through this modern world, we feel drained of energy every day. So
Right.
how do you advise people to spend their energy?
To be aware of the fact that we have choices.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we have choices about how to spend our energy. And if we worry a lot about the whatevers and or think that that's where our energy should be, that's where our energy will be. In other words, for me, it's kind of like looking over my shoulder at what it is that has to be done and whatever. And if I keep my my head turned to the right, and I keep looking back there over my shoulder, all I'm going to see is hardships and hard work and all of that. And like so many of us, we could get drained of that energy. It just empties out there. And then we get a stiff neck. And then what are you going to do? You know? But if you pull your head back and look for the light and look for love and look for the actual healing aspect of who we are and who our patient is, it adds to our energy. It doesn't deplete it. It, you know, we join together because life and love have to move and they have to be in touch with others, and we have to reach for that. If we don't, it dies.
Yes. Well, yes, exactly. And what I will say is, you talk a lot about movement in the book, and you mentioned movement and the concept that we have to constantly keep moving spiritually, physically, in love and in life, but we get roadblocks sometimes, right? Traumas occur, we get stuck. How do you tell people to manage those roadblocks? What do you do when people get to a roadblock, whether it be in their health or just spiritually or anything?
Well, if they don't think, if they're stuck and they don't think they can move and they're not told they can, and they are pointed towards getting rid of something without adding to their juice, their own energy, to their own, to me, my patient is the person that I love.
Mhm.
It's the person that I try to get to understand enough that I can help them. As it's sort of like if I have a flashlight and I'm walking in a dark path and all I can take is one step at a time. But as I'm walking this path, I see a little glimmer of light over here or over there, and I add my light to that. All of a sudden, we've got a big light. It's the ability to look for ways in which we can reach to each other and become brighter lights instead of reaching into the dark and just, you know, sort of having the light fade.
It's a beautiful analogy. It's beautiful. And you refer to, the juice, helping people find their juice of everyday life and having a purpose that they're aiming for. But
Right.
I feel that I'm lucky that I have a purpose and it gets me my juice every single day. How can people find purpose and meaning in their lives, especially if they're sick?
Start looking for it,
Mhm.
because if you don't look for it, you won't find it. And people aren't told to look for the light. They're not told to that there's hope out there, that there's love out there, that there's somebody there who really cares about them, that unless they're looking for them. If you think that everybody's against you and that all you have to do is just battle your way through all these negatives, whatever's, it's dark, it's horrible. But if you can start looking past that, beyond that, deeper that, and into your own being about what it is that you're really looking for, then you find it because it's there. Just the sun never goes away. The sun always comes up,
Mhm.
and so does the moon, and so do the stars, and so does love, and so does hope. You know, it's all part of that energy that is divine energy, that is who we are as human beings, divine energy that has the ability to choose. We have free will and we have uh, ability to choose. And nothing else on this planet that's living has the same opportunity as we do. So if we reach for that and start using it, we find it.
Yes. Yes. Excellent sage advice. you talk also about just looking at your everything that happens to you in life, and instead of having a negative view, you use it as a teaching moment. You say everything is your teacher, right? And sometimes it's hard to do that, right? Because when you're in a negative situation, when you're something hurts you or harms you, it's hard to see the silver lining, or it's hard to see the learnings from it. But how do you talk to, like, and I'm referring specifically to patients too. Like, say someone gets diagnosed with cancer and they come to you, and how do you talk to people about learning from these setbacks?
Well, you know, it was what, 5 weeks ago, something like that, that I was riding my tricycle and it bucked me off. The tricycle bucked me off and threw me into the yard, and I broke 3 ribs.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that.
Huh?
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, well, they're healed now. And it's the process of knowing that those bones were going to heal. And I ended up in the hospital, but life goes on. And it wasn't fun. It hurt. And I don't like being in the hospital. And, but there it was. And I had the opportunity to work with these ribs, and they're all healed.
That's a great example. It's a setback, and you work with it, and you just move forward, and you learn from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
Even something like that, I have a friend who really injured her ankle badly and kept her from doing something that she really, really wanted to do. But in the process of having to do something else, she learned a whole lesson that was important to her.
Hmm. Right, right. Dr. McGarry, you talk about a lot about building community around you, and what we see now instead is there's a lot of loneliness in the world, especially as people become older and less able to travel, have less family around them. How do you consistently and constantly maintain a community throughout your life?
You know, I'm in such awe of community. Look what you and I have right now, you
I
know,
know.
and I actually can't see well enough to know what's going on. I can see you as an outline, but I have glaucoma and a blind spot, so I can't see well. I can't hear well. I've got hearing aids in. I have to walk with a walker, but I walk. And I walk around my house and I walk outside of my house, but I walk with a walker, and I have somebody walking with me so that if I do, like, get bucked off a tricycle or whatever, um, there's somebody there to help. But I have my own little community right here. And yesterday, Easter, I had uh, 11 people in my home for a while because these are my community. But look at what else I have as community. I have you guys. I have the people who are listening to me. I have the people who are uh, wanting to hear something that says there is community out there, and making actual contact with that community so you could learn and love.
Yes. And with technology nowadays, I feel some people say that social media, et cetera, has made it harder to find community and people are getting lonelier, but it's almost counterintuitive because here we are talking on Zoom, and I'm never part of your immediate community, but now, like you say, we are in a community, and there's so many new methods to reach out to other people. And
It,
I think you have to use technology in the right way to find a community that you want to be a part of, and then have the motivation to actually get into it and engage with that community.
you create your own community. You
Right.
reach out to other people who are reaching out to other people who are, you know, and so it goes.
Right. What inspired you to write this book? I mean, you didn't have to write this book, but it seems like you had a message you wanted to put out there in the world.
Well,
Of it?
I did have to write this book because I had written 5 other books, but they were all about medicine,
Yes.
about how we could. The first one was about birthing because I was so concerned about how we were actually medicating women into foolishness so they didn't even know they had a baby. The whole process.
Right.
My first 2 children, it was 24 hours before I knew I had sons. But anyway,
Wow.
it was that kind of a process. But in the process, what we have learned is that we can actually do this. And in the process of doing what it is that we can do, we've created a community. And that's you and me and all the other people that are listening to us. And,
Right.
and you know, it's how was that possibly imaginable when I didn't even know what a telephone was way back when?
It's incredible. One of the most powerful messages in your book, or one of the you say you have 6 secrets to health and happiness. One of the most powerful ones is love is the most powerful medicine.
And
And yes, I'd love for you to talk about that in your own words.
well, I have what I call my 5 L's. The first two are love and life, and they go together. They can't, they don't function without each other. It's like a pregnancy. The mother and the baby are one. And during the pregnancy, they just manifest that way, and that's the way they are. The baby becomes a living entity when the baby takes his first breath. But until that time, they're a duo. So love and life go together. They have to go together. They belong together. The third one is laughter. Laughter without love is cruel. It causes families to break up. It causes wars. It's it's mean. It's cold. But laughter with love is joy and happiness. And then there's labor. Labor without love is, oh, too many diapers. I've got to go to work. This is awful. And labor with love is a bliss. It's why you do what you do. It's what I'm doing, what I'm doing. And the fifth one is listening. Listening with love is actually hearing what the people are saying and understanding it.
I love that. Those 5 L's all go together with love. And you're right. Having any of those without love is counterproductive, but with love, they make life just incredible.
Right.
Yes. So I'd love to talk to you about some practical things. You seem like you're super healthy. You're riding a tricycle. You're writing books. I'd love to hear a little bit about your kind of routines that you keep in your life right now to maintain your health.
Well, you have to take care. I eat what I eat and I do what I do. And it's the way life just goes on. You find what works for you and you do it. And what works for me isn't necessarily what works for somebody else. But, I can tell people what I do and they can do it if they want to, but that's not what really needs to be looked at. We each one need to look at what it is. First of all, what we choose to do. Secondly, what works for us. Because, I have a son who can't eat garlic. Well, I like garlic. So I eat food that has garlic in it, but he can't. So how we try to find something for somebody else is friendly and it's nice, and maybe we can, but the person has to find it for themselves.
Great advice. Thank you for that. So, Dr. McGarey, what's next for you?
Well, I really am dreaming and visioning a village for living medicine where everybody that steps onto the property, the healing starts, because everything there is based on human choice, on love, on laughter and hope, and looking for the true healing, which is the love and life.
That would be awesome. I'd be one of the first people there to both
Well,
be a physician and a participant. One, that is fantastic. Dr. McGarey, this was such a beautiful conversation, and I'm so happy to have had this with you. I hope it inspires people to read your book, because I was so inspired by your book, and I think that more people need to read it. And I truly thank you for putting your message out there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for everything.